Hey guys, Nick here for Rev3 Games, and if I look tired, it's because I am. Last night I got to play about 3 hours of Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, which is a game whose development I've been following obsessively since it first got announced. And so what I figured I'd do is we were able to capture a big chunk of footage, and we can show you about 20 minutes of that footage. What I'm going to do is I took a bunch of notes. I went through last night, stayed up till like 4 a.m. just combing over the footage for every little detail that I want to share with you guys. So without further ado, here are 100 things I learned while playing Super Smash Bros. For Wii U last night. So here we go. All the characters I played feel identical to their 3DS counterparts, but good God, what a difference 1080p and using a GameCube controller can make. Shielding is easier than ever, using the C-stick to throw items and execute smashes is a total godsend, and overall it just feels like what Smash Bros. 4 was always meant to be. I think it'll be legitimately hard to go back to the 3DS version after playing this. It's possible to get hit by background stage elements on certain levels, so for example, if your timing is good enough on the Pilot Wing stage, you can knock your opponent into the Woohoo Island cruise boat, as I did right here. Unlike in the 3DS version, you can choose to customize your characters without taking over the whole screen, simply by going down to your character slot and swapping between the different customizations. Unfortunately, moving the C-stick around on the menus or the character select screen does absolutely nothing. Trust me, I tried a lot. 8-player Brawl is exactly as crazy as you would expect it to be, although the big stages do help a lot alleviating that, and playing it on stock mode actually lets the match slowly whittle down to a smaller group and start to feel more like normal Smash. However, 5-player might actually be a totally valid way to play the game, and something I end up doing with my friends. It is possible to play with 8 GameCube controllers if you have 2 GameCube controller hub adapters for the Wii U. Each of those takes up 2 USB ports, so you just plug one in the front of the Wii U and one in the back of the Wii U and use up all 4 ports. Based on my time with it, it seems like counterattacks are super valuable in 8-player brawls. A well-timed counter from Lucario, for example, can deal a ton of damage to a huge number of your opponents at once. Trophies still drop in the middle of matches just like in normal fights, and you can grab them to add them to your collection even in 8-player brawls. On the curved Super Mario Galaxy planet level, projectile weapons actually curve with the gravity of the planet instead of just traveling in a straight line. The backdrop of the Pilot Wings stage begins with the 2D Mode 7 island from the original Pilot Wings game, but then flies over to Woohoo Island as depicted in Pilot Wings on the 3DS. When you first start up Super Smash Bros. For Wii U on a brand new save, 4 of the unlockables from the 3DS game are already available. That's Jigglypuff, Ness, Ganondorf, and Bowser Jr. right from the start. On moving levels, the soccer ball is affected by stage gravity, so for example on the Woohoo Island stage, I saw the soccer ball roll back and forth as the plane tilted. The stats you can view on the battle results screen are now much more robust, including my favorite, a biggest drought counter that shows you the longest amount of time you went without anything happening. The drowning mechanic is making a return from Brawl. It is possible for fighters to swim and drown on the jet ski section of the Woohoo Island stage. When playing the Woohoo Island stage, if you look closely in the background, you can actually see the plane from the Pilot Wings levels fly past in the background. The crowd in the auditorium during home run contests is actually full motion video of real human beings, but who knows who those people actually are. In the 2-player version of Classic Mode, you still use the analog stick to slide towards who you want to fight next, but because it's 2 players, both of you can control the trophy like some sort of weird Smash Bros. Ouija board. Unlocking characters seems to work exactly the same way it did in the past. I had an encounter with Falco and fought him on his respective level, beat him, and added him to the roster. The item frequency settings are back, but the very high option is now missing. You can only set items to low, medium, high, or off. However, playing with items set to high feels a lot like playing with very high in the past. It is still chaotic, and there's plenty of stuff to mess around and throw. Playing with items off, on the other hand, is just as much fun, if not more fun than in previous games, thanks to a much more balanced, interesting roster than we saw in Brawl. This game was clearly built with competitive play in mind more than Brawl was. The totally flat Omega variants of every single stage were a welcome addition on the 3DS, but they're even better in Smash Bros. On Wii U. They bring this staggering visual variety to these straightforward ultra-fair stages, and basically everybody wins. When fighting on the Pilot Wings stage, you can see Mii's from the 3DS version of Pilot Wings using their jetpacks to fly around in the background. When choosing your enemies in Classic Mode, sometimes a small wrench will appear next to potential enemies, indicating that they are customized versions of those characters. Unlike the 3DS version, which only had 35 challenges to speak of, there are 180 challenges to go after in the Wii U version. When looking at the unlocked screenshots on the challenge screen, you can press the Y button on the GameCube controller at any time to full screen that screenshot and view it in full HD. The addition of intruders to Classic Mode means that it's a lot more unpredictable than before. I went after a Lucario at one point and was instead challenged by a Metal Greninja who jumped in out of nowhere. The 3DS game added free-for-all battles to Classic Mode, but now it can go up to more than 4 players. In my time with the game, I encountered one Classic free-for-all that had 6 players in it. Just like in Brawl, Smart Bombs can totally still be duds in this game. As you probably already know, the villager still frequently comes across as a total creepy murderer. The Gamer stage, based off the minigame from Game & Wario, has been recreated completely in 3D from the the 2D original, with everything from the TV cycling animations to the Virtual Boy present in this version. Just like in the original Game & Wario minigame, the default music for the gamer stage is actually no music at all. The Omega version of the gamer stage actually just has the table on it. The mom never shows up and you are never interrupted, of course. Every time you're KO'd in coin battle mode, you lose exactly half of the coins you've earned so far. The Master Order mode is basically just built around these randomly generated battle conditions, and there's a huge amount of conditions that the game can pull from. One great example is that in one of my Master Order battles, everybody had jetpacks. Some of the random traits that appear in Master Order affect all players, and some only affect your enemies. I had one round where knockback was set to 1.2 times the normal amount, enemies were lighter than normal, and everybody had Tanuki tails on. Seeing Master Hand give you a thumbs up is super unsettling for some reason. When entering a nickname, you can still press the R button to generate random ones. Unfortunately though, when I was capturing this, my capture box crapped out, but here are the best nicknames I can remember. Tingle, Nintendo with the number 10, Treehouse, Filzamek, and Bra. Smash Tour is more than just the Mario Party clone it looks like and is a far better addition than Smash Run, and I liked Smash Run. When setting up a Smash Tour, you can set it to anywhere from 15 to 25 turns long, with each turn taking approximately 1 minute. No matter what, Smash Tour is always a 4-player game, and any non-human characters will have their slots taken up by CPUs. Over the course of a Smash Tour, you collect fighters either by picking them up when they spawn on the map or by defeating other players in clashes. Each of these counts as a separate stock you can use in the final round. One of the primary sub-goals in Smash Tour is to go touch all 5 checkpoints, and every lap you do of the map gets you a huge stat boost, so you should always be moving towards the next checkpoint. The items you pick up in Smash Tour come in the form of trophies, and you can hold up to 4 of those trophies at a time. Some are used on the game board itself, while others are used right before starting a battle. Anytime 2 players touch on the Smash Tour board, they clash, and a 4-player free-for-all begins, usually with a special rule set like High Launch Smash or Shooter Smash, with a unique item trophy as a reward. These are 1-stock matches with a 1-minute time limit. Some of the battle items are crazy helpful. One time my opponent used an Ore Club trophy to start the match with an Ore Club, but then I used a Franklin badge to start with the Reflector, and went into the High Launch Smash with him hitting tornadoes at me and then immediately bouncing off me, hitting him and launching him into the sky. When choosing the trophy you want to use, you do it by inputting a direction on the analog stick or D-pad, and this action is hidden from your opponent, so no matter what, nobody knows what you're using until they've also locked in their decision. Some of the trophy items can harm and target specific opponents. For example, the Poison Mushroom lets you pick an opponent to shrink at the start of a match, and Wolfen lets you make an opponent start with 100% damage right off the bat. Just like picking a trophy, targeting your opponents is done in secret and they don't know who you've picked until it's too late. Anytime a player wins a clash, the last opponent they defeated is added to their pool of fighters to use as a stock in the final battle. After all players have rolled to see how many spaces they move on the game board, everybody moves simultaneously, meaning that you have to act quickly or another player may beat you to picking up the item or character that you were aiming for. The dice spinners are not actually random and can actually be predicted if you get good enough. I was able to consistently roll a 6 about 4 turns in a row. The downside though is that if you attempt a 6 and overshoot, you end up picking the 1 which is right above it, which happened to me just as often as I was able to roll a 6. If you choose to turn on custom fighters when beginning a Smash Tour, the various characters you pick up and play as will all have randomized custom moves. With custom fighters turned on, you can actually tell what moves your fighter has by looking at the number next to their name. So for example, a Game & Watch with a 1 next to his name will have all of his standard moves, but a villager with a 2 next to her name will have all the second custom variants for her moves, so the Liftoff Lloyd, Extreme Balloon Trip, the version of the tree that does counterattacks, etc. Not all crashes in Smash Tour will be brawls. You could, for example, be entered into a turn-based home run contest. If you happen to get the Home Run Contest minigame in Smash Tour, the game will fast-forward Sandbag's flight through the arena in order to help keep each round of turns about a minute long. If you ever don't feel like participating in a Smash Tour clash, let's say you want to go get a snack or a drink or something, you can press the X button and opt to just let a CPU fight on your behalf. Random events can occur on the Smash Tour board based on the main game stage hazards. So for example, the Flying Man from Earthbound's Magicant stage can show up on the board, and if you grab him, he will knock away the next enemy you walk past. Unique boss battles can also occur, so at one point the Yellow Devil from Mega Man showed up, and when a player touched him, we were all transported to Dr. Wily's castle to fight him, with the winner getting a huge stat boost. If somehow all 4 players fail to defeat a boss in Smash Tour, the boss just reappears elsewhere on the board. I don't have footage of this, but at one point a coughing appeared and gasped the entire game board, making it temporarily impossible to tell where all the items and players on the board were. Some of the boards have warp pipes on them that can be used in conjunction with strategically timed dice rolls to beat your opponents from one end of the board to the other, just like racing to get a star in Mario Party, which is super useful when you're trying to stock up on new fighters. If somebody uses the Tingle trophy on the board, it shuffles around every single player randomly. One of the coolest item trophies I saw was Baseball Daisy, which when used makes it so you automatically catch every single item that's thrown at you. If you grab the Latias and Latios trophy in Smash Tour and use it while entering into a fight, you actually get to select an opponent to temporarily be your teammate for the duration of the 1-minute battle. One of the best and most common items in Smash Tour is the Excite Bike, which doubles the result of your dice roll, which is great unless you accidentally get greedy and roll yourself a 1. One of the Smash variants I got in Smash Tour was called Boss Galaga Battle, which is exactly what it sounds like. The stage just started pouring Galaga items, and trying to contend with and avoid 6 Galaga ships in the middle of a fight is one of the most chaotic Smash experiences I've ever had. If you ever run out of fighters in the middle of a Smash Tour, you just don't get to fight in the next battle that happens. However, during item distribution at the beginning of the next turn, everybody gets a free fighter who doesn't have one. One of the random events that can happen on the stage is the appearance of iridescent Glint Beetles from Pikmin, and by chasing one down and grabbing it, you'll get some substantial prizes, including items and even entire fighters for free. The final battle was described in yesterday's Nintendo Direct as a stock battle, but really the winner is determined on KOs only. So even if another player has far more fighters at their disposal than you can still win the entire Smash Tour simply by staying alive as long as possible and just getting more kills than everyone else. In order to prevent people cheesing the randomness, Mr. Game & Watch's Side B hammer will only roll 6s during a home run contest. Item trophies can combine in interesting ways, so for example, at one point an opponent used a Wolfen on me, which makes me start at 100 damage, but I used an energy tank which automatically heals you once you hit 100 damage, so as soon as the match began, I was damaged but instantly started healing. When loading up a brand new amiibo as a figure player for the first time, you have to select a Mii to assign as its owner. When setting up your figure player, you pick a costume for that amiibo, and that becomes its costume permanently, which is pretty cool. The custom equipment in Smash Bros. That you may have seen in the 3DS version play heavily into building amiibos. By feeding the equipment to them, you raise their attack, defense, and speed stats permanently, but also lose the equipment permanently. The stat increases that you get from feeding equipment to a figure player won't be exactly the same as what it would get by equipping it, but it will roughly correspond to it. If the equipment you feed your FP has special bonus effects, the amiibo will inherit those effects as a permanent character trait and can hold up to 3 of those special effects. After feeding figure players equipment, they can get full, and the only way to empty their stomachs again is to have them go into a fight. Amiibos, thank goodness, do not have to stay on a gamepad's NFC touchpoint to function. You simply tap it on the gamepad and put it back down to load in the data, and once you've made your changes, you tap it on there again to save it. You actually train your figure players by going into the main Smash screen and add figure players to matches just by tapping the amiibo on the gamepad's touchpoint while on the character select screen. You can never actually play as your figure players, but you can play with your figure players. Amiibo figurines aren't actually used to store your personal custom characters like some of us originally thought. Instead, they're used for storing these little AI characters that you train up separately. Figure players level up by fighting, and the level is an approximate measure of how good they are and how much they've learned, up to a maximum level of 50. Figure player AI is fundamentally different from normal CPUs. They actually learn from what they see happen in combat. All figure players learn from what they're shown. So one anecdote that a Nintendo employee told me was that a friend of his didn't like items and never used items. So when he trained his FP, he never used items in those battles. He trained the FP all the way up to level 45, and it was actually a really good fighter, but when it encountered an item in a battle for the first time, it just stood there. It had never seen an item before, and therefore did not know how to use it. The Nintendo reps I spoke to also implied that amiibos can learn about other things or not learn about them, including side smashes, shielding frequently, and other general combat tactics. Selectively feeding equipment enables tremendous customization for FP characters. As you can see here, one Nintendo figure player we saw at the event was a level 44 Peach named Speed Peach, who was extraordinarily fast and agile and decimated our level 1 Kirby almost immediately. FPs actually learn and level up faster when fighting against other FPs, meaning it behooves you to fight your amiibos against other amiibos, including your own, your friends, etc. The custom stage editor is super simple and lets you literally draw right on the screen whatever shape you want to draw. However, if you're worried that you won't be able to draw straight, you can press the X button to activate a grid overlay, making it possible to draw perfectly straight lines. As best I can tell, the items shown here, the springs and lava and stuff, are the only options that you have for customizing your stage outside of the shape, but that's based off a version of the game with nothing unlocked, so who knows if that's an unlockable down the line. By tapping on any corner of any landmass, you can actually toggle whether or not it's a grabbable ledge when customizing your level. The level editor shows you distinct boundary lines. One square shows you the edges of the camera, another one shows you where the KO box is, and the last one shows you the edges of where you're allowed to draw. The Chaos of 8-player mode was actually pretty manageable feeling, but bear in mind that when we played it, we were playing on these enormous 60-inch screens. Your mileage may vary. Bowser Jr. is still the most fun character in the game. Whew, okay, there it is. That is 100 of the things I could find in the game. It's funny because the game is largely a lot like what we saw in the 3DS version, just infinitely prettier and with a bunch of new modes and a new little tweaks on the formula. But yeah, I absolutely loved my time with Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I will do my best to read and answer every single question you guys have. And if you have other questions about Smash Bros. For Wii U, you can find me on Twitter. I'm twitter.com/Babylonian. And I got 2 hours of sleep last night, so I'm going to go to bed. I will see you guys later. Bye. Oh, I forgot about the get-up moves in Doha.
Yes.
That was always a...
Yes. Each character has their own sort of unique wake-up kicks or get-up moves. And depending on what part of the stage you are, for instance, if you were to attack me here, I can get thrown off.
Oh, geez, yeah.